It has become very apparent that we live in the microwave age, one of instant meals, instant this and instant that. You get on a plane in Los Angeles or New York, and within a few hours you arrive in Europe or Asia. We rush to work, rush back home, gulp down our food, make the gesture for the sign of the cross. We settle for a snack of type sexual interlude instead of a buffet. We get married today and divorced right after the honeymoon. Everything happens so fast, no one seems to embrace the commitment mindset. In all of this mad rush, we toss our values into an abyss. Our dreams and goals plummet with that descent. Thus, our commitment to our vision and to others becomes short-lived. We blame the system, the economy, our lover, our parents, our kids, the devil, and even God gets thrown into the mix sometimes. We inadvertently kick the cat. We lose the good we oft might win by failing to commit to anything. Therefore, we settle for anything. As a result, we spend our lives sitting on the fence. A champion, on the other hand, spends time working on himself. He knows that if he fails to prepare, he has prepared to fail. He has to be his best. Therefore, he commits, knowing that winning is an all-time thing, according to Vince Lombardi. Whenever I think of commitment, my mind goes back to an airplane taxiing down the runway scenario. Prior to takeoff, the pilot receives the go-ahead from the air traffic control tower. He then engages the aircraft, it picks up speed, engages the sky, and the landing gear retracts as it becomes airborne. As it gains altitude, passengers are instructed to unfasten their seatbelts, or visit the lounge if necessary. In most cases, refreshments are served. That plane is now committed to fly. The pilot announces the estimated time of arrival and the weather condition in that designated city. There is an end in mind. Another story I once heard helps putting commitment into perspective. One day, a chicken and a pig were riding in a taxi cab. Simultaneously, they noticed a billboard displaying the great American breakfast, bacon and eggs. The chicken looks across at the pig and remarks, "Look at us up there. That is totally awesome, isn't it?" The pig, with no time to waste, responds, "For you, it's all in a day's work, but for me, it's total commitment." You see, the chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. We find that at times, commitment could require all you've got and more. In 1963, the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., while addressing a segment of the American populace, echoed, "If a man hasn't discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live." King's life was saturated with a cause greater than self. His cause required all or nothing. That is a champion's mindset. There's only one way to succeed in anything, and that is to give it everything. I do, and I demand that my players do, echoed Vince Lombardi, the late coach of the Green Bay Packers. No wonder he was one of the best to ever coach the game of football. On February 2nd, 1959, Lombardi arrived in Green Bay and told the committee, "I want it understood that I am in complete command here." His commitment to the game helped to totally transform the Green Bay Packers back then. In the early part of 1959, the Packers were coming off a 1-10-1 season, the worst in team history. Winners of 6 NFL championships during the Curly Lambeau era, the Packers hadn't had a winning season since 1947. Lombardi's first season with the Packers was a stunning success, turning that 1-10-1 team of 1958 into a 7-5 team in 1959, and picking up unanimous Coach of the Year honors in the process. His first game with the Packers was a 9-6 victory over the Chicago Bears in New City Stadium, later to be renamed Lambeau Field. And when it was over, the players carried their head coach off the field in triumph. The commitment factor. Which causes are you willing to commit to during your lifetime? What would your life count for? Total commitment, which is the mindset of champions, warrant a cause greater than self. We must be challenged to seek causes greater than ourselves and step into the game of life versus watching from the sidelines. Later on in this recording, I will give you the basic formula for a champion's mindset. Imagine if you were stricken with cancer, and as your physician, I were to tell you that the cure for your almost fatal disease lies beyond the riverbed. What if I prescribed that if you found a little small rock, glittering as a diamond, placed it twice a day outside a cancer-infected area for 1 month, and you would automatically be cured? What time would you wake up in the morning? And what time would you arrive at the riverbed in order to begin your search? As you look in the water, noticing several stones ruggedly, smoothly shaped, and otherwise, would you use a net or your bare hands so you can feel the contour and identity of your cure easily? In order to ensure your success and beat the odds, let's say that you decided to use your hands. If sunset came and you didn't find it, now with blistered hands, would you return the following day to continue your search? By now you have cleared almost all the stones from the riverbed, but that special stone was yet to be found. Not only are your hands aching and bloodied, but your back hurts severely. The shadows lengthen, the sun sets again. Tired and exhausted, you drag yourself home. You nurse your bruises. Now furious about the price you have paid thus far, you pick up the phone and call me, whining and complaining. Where is the stone, Dr. John? I have looked all over. I am sore. I am fatigued. It's nowhere to be found. And I said to you, be persistent. Keep looking. The stone is there. Plus, you need to start medicating that affected area tomorrow. Now you jump out of bed before the crack of dawn so you can get to that riverbed, fearing that some malicious person will discover the stone or a high tide of water will wash your desired medication away. Then right before sunset, with what little energy you have left, you clear more rocks from the riverbed. You're almost out of breath. Just when you were about to give up, you discovered the smooth stone, the intended cure for your disease. Knowing that you have a whole month of treatment to go, you feel as though you have already been restored to health. You call me back jubilantly. Forgetting the aches and the pains you have gone through, you shout out, I've found it, I've found it. I love you, doctor. Thanks for saving my life. I respond, what a thrill of success. You committed to the process, and now you have success. Yes. Arthur Bertram Braley had this to say, if you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your sleep for it, if all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, if you simply go after that thing you want with all your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold, poverty, famine nor gout, sickness nor pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you beseech it, with the help of God, you will get it. On Friday, January 20th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy, America's youngest president, announced after a heavy snowfall the night before his inauguration, I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. On May 25, 1961, a few months later, he announced in an address to Congress that America would be the first country to put a man on the moon. He explained, I believe we possess all the resources and talents necessary, but the facts of the matter are that we've never made the national decisions or marshaled the national resources required for such leadership. We have never specified long-range goals and an urgent time schedule, or managed our resources and our time so as to ensure their fulfillment. Plans for this mission gradually began to unfold, and suddenly everything in NASA jumped into momentum mode. Productivity stepped up drastically, and finally on July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first man to set foot on the moon. Vision was realized. America as a nation had once again beaten the odds. Oftentimes, I have seen individuals loaded with potential who fail to grasp a leader's vision. Fear of commitment is one of the main causes of the lazy man's disease known as fence sitting. Lack of commitment in any relationship could be attributed to the inability to tie into the vision of the other person. That lack results in an unfulfilled dream. In life, we find that when we are interested in something, we tend to do it when it is convenient. When we are committed, we do it no matter what stands in our way, regardless of the crisis. How would you respond if you were told that there was an automobile accident and one person got run over? How would you respond? On the other hand, if you were informed that it was your neighbor, how would you respond? If you were told that it was your neighbor's child who got run over, how would you respond? However, if you were told that it was your child, what would your response be? I heard the story about a 95-pound woman who attempted to lift a bus off a little boy. She was committed to saving her son. Have you ever met people who delight in sitting on their good intentions? They boast, "I have a cause. I have been thinking about it since I was 5 years old. Someday I will make it happen. When it gets launched, it will totally save the world. It is the best thing since sliced bread." Unfortunately, they never do anything about it. Their ship never sets sail. Those individuals are known as tomorrow people. They wait for the world to come to them instead of meeting it head on. They will tell you in no insulting terms that they will start tomorrow. The problem arises that tomorrow turns into another tomorrow, and then another tomorrow, and another, and so on. Sitting on the fence philosophy and mindset does not guarantee them a launch. They never seem to grasp the fact that it is what you do about your vision that counts. Total commitment allows you to move toward your world, enabling it to move towards you. When you launch out, you create waves, and only by doing so you attract committed energy into your sail. Wilma Rudolph was stricken with the polio disease at 4 years old. This disease usually causes people to be crippled and unable to walk. Born in poverty, her parents could not afford good medical care. To make matters worse, she was from a large family, the 20th child of 22 children. Her dad was a railroad porter and her mom was a maid. Her mom decided she would do whatever it took to help Wilma walk again. Despite the doctors saying that she would not be able to walk, her mom persisted, trying to beat the odds. She took her every week on a long bus trip to a hospital to receive therapy. Wilma's condition didn't change, but the doctors told her mom that she needed to give Wilma a massage every day by rubbing her legs. She even taught Wilma's siblings how to do it, and they also rubbed her legs 4 times a day. By the time Wilma turned 8, she could walk with a leg brace. After that, she was able to use a high-top shoe to support her foot. Wilma played basketball with her brothers every day. One day, 3 years later, Wilma's mom came home and found her playing basketball, not only by herself, but barefooted without the aid of that special shoe. A track coach encouraged Wilma to start running. She did, and ran so well in her senior year in high school that she qualified for the 1956 Olympics in Melbourne, Australia. There she won a bronze medal in the women's 400-meter relay. In 1959, she qualified for the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome by setting a world record in the 200-meter race. At the Olympics that year, she won 2 gold medals, one for 100-meter race and one for the 200-meter race. Then accidentally she sprained her ankle, but Wilma ignored the pain and helped her team to win another gold medal for the 400-meter relay. She won 3 gold medals in the Rome Olympics. She retired from running at age 22, but went on to coach women's track teams and encourage young people. Wilma believed that God had a greater purpose for her, so she started the Wilma Rudolph Foundation. She passed on as a result of brain cancer in 1994, but her influence still lives on in the lives of so many young people who look up to her leadership. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a failure turns about when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow, you might succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup, and learned too late when the night slipped down how close he was to a victor's crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It might be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seems worst that you mustn't quit. Preparedness. Preparation is paramount in any undertaking, and when you understand its importance and move towards your goal and desires, your goals and desires move tenaciously toward you. It is a given that no man can stop a man with a plan, because no man has a plan to stop him. So plan your work and work your plan. Preparation is foundational. That's why it should start with baby steps. Watch any kid walking for the first time, or watch a bodybuilder working out for the first time, or any athlete honing his skill. It's really mundane, isn't it? Step by step, layer by layer, task by task. These mundane chores are repeated. Doing the mundane is not always comfortable. We often complain how boring it is doing the same thing over and over again. Yet, we find that champions do the same things over and over again in order to win a championship. They become adept at mastering the mundane. Michael Phelps, a winner of several gold medals during the 2009 Olympics, made it a habit of working out in the pool for 8 hours a day for several years in order to accomplish Olympic distinction. It was said that one component of Michael Phelps' phenomenal success is his made-for-swimming physique. But the main component is the carefully crafted training program that his coach Bob Bowman created for him. Michael Phelps was not only told he had a stroke that would set a world record one day, but he needed to prepare himself by doing that stroke in practice. Yes, over and over, lap after lap, though at times mundane. Simple disciplinary actions perfected over time brought him Olympic excellence. Additionally, he was instructed on the need to condition himself like he did as a child by strengthening the connection in his mind. Phelps learned that what happens on a daily basis would affect what happens in the championship. It was imperative to maintain that intensity. So many get caught up in the results, and they forget about the activity necessary to produce those results. Phelps' appearance at the 2008 Olympics had much to do with his preparedness and his commitment. It has become known that his training intensified leading up to this moment. Many had never heard of Phelps until his Olympic brilliance, as he shocked the world by his performances. When it comes down to winning the championship, preparedness is a known requirement. If you fail to prepare, you have prepared to fail. I recount the preparedness of one of the greatest failures in history. He was quoted as saying, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." He failed in business in 1831. He was defeated for the legislature in 32. He was elected to the legislature in 34. His sweetheart died in 35. He had a nervous breakdown in 36. He was defeated for speaker in 38. He was defeated for elector in 40. He was defeated for Congress in 43. He was elected to Congress in 48. He was defeated for the Senate in 50. And he was defeated for vice president in 56 and for the Senate in 58. But in 1860, he was elected President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. His numerous failures prepared him to hold in the highest office in our nation. As president, he built the Republican Party into a strong national organization. Further, he rallied most of the Northern Democrats to the Union cause. On January 1, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation that declared forever free those slaves within the Confederacy. Being prepared is a requirement for anyone attempting to win in any chosen endeavor. Action. The power that you and I possess is unlimited. When we realize what we have possession of and put it to use, we will be able to accomplish the amazing impossible. Most of us only use 10% of our God-given potential. We are happy living in the survival mode. It is not until we are faced with a crisis that we tap into the other 90%. What will happen if we relied on that other 90% more often? Most of our potential lies dormant in us because, 1, we fail to realize that we are blessed beyond measure. 2, we succumb to the effects of heartbrokenness and underappreciativeness for far too long. 3, fear, the 4-letter word described as false evidence appearing real, block us from becoming the best we can be. How many times have you said no to your potential? How many times have you stared at a great opportunity in the face and said no to yourself because of your past defeats? How many times has someone told you that you can't do something or can't do all you were created to be? Most of us carry around too much junk in the trunk. The things that you and others call impossible will be yours for the taking if you eliminate that junk and choose to act. Action is a doing word. Once you acquire this habit, others have no choice but to step aside for you. You are now a crusader, and the world always seems to make way for the person who knows where he or she is going. Look at a fire engine, mission-bound, speeding up the street. I reside in Los Angeles, California, and as a rule, when a fire engine is in pursuit, everything gives way. Despite how desperate the drivers of those now parked vehicles are towards arriving at their destinations. Also, I've witnessed dogs barking at these passionate, purpose-driven pursuits of a fire engine. Never once have I seen any fire engine stop to address them. Could these dogs be saying in their language, "You are going too fast and making too much noise. No one can keep up, not even me. You need to slow down. Don't you hear me? I am barking for you to slow down. Are you deaf?" How about those people who are content to consistently sit on their good intentions? Sitting there is one of the major causes of failure. Lackadaisically, they let opportunities pass them by. They lack the zest, the vim, the vitality, as well as the ability to swim upstream and associate with others who are content with floating downstream. They operate their lives like a train without a caboose, and then when others around them are moving ahead, they become envious, wishing that those action-driven individuals never succeed at their chosen vocation. Failure to act, a fear epidemic paralyzing many would-be champions in our world, has a simple cure. It's action. The people who act on their ideas are not only successful, but in most cases amass great fortunes. Some people watch things happen. Some people like to wait for things to happen. Some people like to wonder what will happen. Some people don't care what happens, but the action-driven person delights in making things happen. Give a task to a busy person, and they finish it speedily. Watch them go to work on it, and you will notice how their actions exude confidence. He's bound to succeed. On the other hand, many are known to wait for their ship to come in when it has not even left the dock. Oh, if I could get lucky like you, the go-getter, the wine. Oh, if I only had your lucky breaks. Give your lucky breaks to them and watch them crumble. Why? Your shoes are not only uncomfortable, but too big for them. They have not seen the sacrifices you have made as you keep disciplining your disappointments on a daily basis in order to gain the stripes on your lapel or the gold medal around your neck. What actions are you hesitant to take, knowing that by acting your life will turn around for the better? What if the life you've always envisioned could be heading your way? If you were to step out and meet it halfway? What actions are holding you back? Good things come to those who are filled with passion and purpose and launch out into the deep, not to those who sit back and wait. My mom was such a philosopher. It seems like she always had the right things to say. Additionally, she loved painting pictures for all 9 of us by telling us stories. I recall this one she told whenever we lagged behind upon completing our chores. I have used it extensively because I feel its application. She told us about Harriet from our village who would go daily down to the river to wash clothes. Harriet would sit on the huge river stone with the soap and laundry next to her and pray to God that he would help her wash the daily increasing load of clothes. What help never came. She did not even have the courage to start. Harriet had faith, but was not willing to do the work. Consequently, help never came. About faith, it is said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith without works is dead. A few years ago, I was at a business conference on the East Coast and heard the keynote speaker share this story. A very wealthy man bought a huge ranch in Arizona and invited some of his closer associates to see it. After touring the 1,500 acres of mountains, rivers, and grasslands, he took everybody to the house. The house was as spectacular as the scenery. In the back of the house was the largest swimming pool they had ever seen. However, it was filled with alligators. The owner explained, "I value courage more than anything. It is what made me a billionaire. I value courage so much that if anyone has the courage to jump into that pool and swim to the other side, I will give them whatever they want, my land, my house, my money, anything." Of course, everybody laughed at the challenge and turned to follow the owner into the house for lunch. Suddenly, they heard a splash. Turning around, they saw a guy splashing and thrashing into the water, swimming for his life as the alligators swarmed after him. After several death-defying seconds, the man made it unharmed to the other side. The rich billionaire was amazed, but he stuck to his promise. He said, "Young man of courage, you can have whatever you want, house, money, land, etc. Whatever you want is yours." The swimmer, breathing heavily, looked up and said, "I just want to know who pushed me in the pool." Some examples of being pushed into action include the story of one Alabama seamstress. One December in 1955, a seamstress for a department store in Montgomery, Alabama, boarded a city bus en route to her home. It was during the Civil Rights Revolution when blacks were only legally permitted to sit at the back of a bus. She walked past the whites-only section towards the middle of the bus. With frequent stops, the bus filled up. The driver, a white man, noticed that more people of his race were still boarding. So he ordered the people in the seamstress Rosa Parks row to move to the back of the bus. Apparently, they gave him a deaf ear. Frustrated, he barked at those black passengers. They all moved, except for Rosa Parks. Consequently, she was arrested and sent to jail after the sheriff was called to the scene. Parks' passionate act fueled the already simmering civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr. at the helm. Today in America, not only are blacks and other minorities permitted to vote, but now a black man sits in the White House as our commander-in-chief. Being pushed seems to bring out the best in people, enabling them to use more of their potential. Less than a decade ago, I was driven to write. I never envisioned myself being a writer. Frankly, it was the furthest vacation from my mind. In 1994, I attended Lee Strasberg Institute in New York and subsequently launched my acting career. I instantly fell in love with the craft. After some off-Broadway engagements, including performances at the famous Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, I brought my skill to Hollywood in 1996. A few years later, several feature films as well as several national TV commercials were under my belt. As I stated in my book, When the Dust Settles, I'm Still Standing, a true Hollywood story, I was forced into writing, or to put it subtly, it became a blessing in disguise. While operating a modeling agency and almost going bankrupt in 2004, I stumbled into a 1970s classic film which I badly wanted to remake. At the time, I had no prior experience in filmmaking except for my previous time spent on movie sets. Nonetheless, I was determined to succeed. I knew exactly how I wanted to remake this project. For the next 3 weeks, I made numerous phone calls to find out who held the rights to my intended pet project. When I finally made contact with the studio, a woman answered the phone and told me they were not interested in selling the rights to a third party. That statement didn't sit well with me. You see, in a nutshell, my plane had already taken off. The fasten your seatbelt signs were already extinguished, and the hostess was serving the beverage of the day. Flying was inevitable. I composed myself, contacted a writer friend whose script was recently optioned by a major studio, and asked him to assist me in writing my script. He did one of the best things a person can do for another. Instead of giving me a fish, he showed me how to fish by sending me guidelines for writing a screenplay. I got busy writing. My mantra echoed for several months. I will write my own. I will show them. They'll be begging me for my work someday. My imaginary airplane was swiftly gaining altitude. I knew if it was going to be, it was up to me. I knew where I came from and where I wanted to go. What I touched had to turn to gold. I dared the ones who tried to get in my way. After my debut writing screenplays, I experienced a supernatural, divine encounter. One day, while sitting at my desktop computer pondering my next steps, I was led to study the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all that he represented. He had always been my hero. I stared at his picture intermittently for several days. At this point, I always desired to write a book. I felt that I possessed very unique stories to share. So on January 21, 2007, after having a heart-to-heart and a mind-to-mind over matter interlude with my hero, hidden guide, and mentor, I took that leap of faith. Reflecting on what Dr. King stood for, I reasoned, if only I could do 20% of what he stood for, I would be very happy. So I committed my time, skill, and resources to writing consistently. In spring of 2007, my first book, The 5 Steps to Changing Your Life, was written. With writing skills well below par, writing as a one-finger typist, I completed the first draft of that book in 1 week. I felt as if a dam of inspiration had flooded through my mind, and I paced back and forth from my computer to my book library. I perused through my book collection, including The Magic of Thinking Big, a book I read for the first time over 20 years ago. In those books, I found the necessary highlighted quotes, which I needed to insert into my manuscript. While the editor worked on that book, I created the outline for the next book I was writing. It turned out to be the byproduct of a great project. Writing my first book did not only cause me to tap into my unused potential, but brought me off the sidelines and into the game. I decided that no one was going to outwork me. Since I had never taken a typing class, I was not adept at using the computer's keyboard. My word per minute was about a few words a minute. Someone once said, "When the dream is big enough, the facts don't count." In the summer of 2008, I wrote, published, and released Spread Some Love Relationships 101. It is my belief that if my thoughts can produce it, it can be written. In hindsight, I was pushed into writing. I was heaved into action towards my vocation, which was a blessing in disguise, after being denied access to that movie's rights. The company probably meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Therefore, deciding to swim upstream was non-negotiable. In the words of the poet Robert Frost, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep." Champions are action-driven. Stroke after stroke, play after play, day after day, even if it seems like nothing is happening. Like a duck's feet moving underwater, they are mentally and physically working on their game. You may never see it on the outside, but it happens on the inside. The roots of a giant oak tree are submerged deep below the ground. Yes, that massive oak which withstands the wind and rain. It is as strong above the ground as it is below the ground. Its roots submerged as a result of simple mundane action in order to support that winning tree. Belief. When Jesus walked on this earth, it was said that he performed numerous miracles. He became the master of taking people from not having to having. He cleansed the leper, gave sight to the blind, fed the multitudes, restored a severed ear, calmed the stormy sea, walked on water, turned the water into wine, and many more. Spectators and recipients saw this amazing power called belief at work firsthand. The power of belief has also moved many individuals from the status of nobody to a person of not only amazing success, but true significance. It has also cured many individuals of fatal diseases, including cancer, as in the case of a pastor's wife. Belief is like a bridge which takes one from not having to having. Though this imaginary bridge exists, still many lack the inspiration necessary to see beyond their present circumstances. Seeing beyond the horizon seems to be a foe instead of a friend urging them on. Additionally, their actions of yesterday tend to not only bring them to where they are now, but like taking a permanent pit stop. Thus, these actions keep them stuck because, like driving a car, they look in the rearview mirror versus the windscreen. Those same wannabes will tell you that they would do something to enhance their life, but thus there are too many buts only aid in keeping them where they are versus where they can be. Believing in yourself has much to do with the value you place on your potential. If you see yourself as a nobody, that's what you will believe about yourself. Just like the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. You will receive little instead of much. I call these believers in you ladder holders. They wait, holding up the ladder, cheering you on to amazing success. They are only looking for people who are willing to make that first step and the second and the third. In you, they recognize not only amazing potential, but your powerful belief. This attraction keeps them standing in the gap, holding on to the ladder until you arrive at the last rung. A person of value also believes that he or she is among the best. Therefore, they act and perform at their best. They believe that they can move mountains, therefore they do so. Watch someone who is striving to become all they can be, and you will notice that instead of becoming less, they grow as a person because they are constantly working on themselves. They don't look for things to become easier. Instead, they acquire the skills necessary to solve problems as they arise. They know that they are either in the middle of a problem, coming out of a problem, or getting ready to be faced with the next problem. Place a challenge in their path and watch it dissipate. Since they believe that they are resourceful, they dominate as a problem solver. Belief is very powerful. It is capable of driving your thoughts. Believing that something is possible always triggers the mind towards finding a possible solution. This reminds me of the story of David and Goliath in the Old Testament. David was matched up against the Philistine giant who dared David to approach him. His peers probably saw a mountain in his way. David only saw Goliath as too big to miss. Because of this giant-sized faith in God, he slew the giant with a few stones and a slingshot. What giants are standing in your way right now? Who or what is in your corner telling you that they can't be slain? Do you believe they can be slain? Or do you never see an end in sight? Belief, genuine belief, inspires one to do the impossible. Belief causes an individual to break bonds of restraint in his or her mind in order to accomplish tasks in a record-breaking style. They become resilient, inspired, and unstoppable. I love sports. Not only are sports exciting to watch, sports always bring out the combativeness in athletes. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball, displayed tremendous belief in himself. In 1990, while playing for the Chicago Bulls, his inspiration helped him score 3 times his jersey number by dropping in 69 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers. In order to really become successful at anything, you first have to believe that you can. Wishing will never put you in the driver's seat. Most often, your belief can be stretched out like the waiting process involved in the growth of a Chinese bamboo tree. Understanding the growth process of this very unique tree will certainly dispel those doubts and fears which you hold about yourself, those imaginary walls deterring you from ever becoming who you were always meant to be. In my opinion, this is a classic example of doubt and faith put to the test. You take a little seed and plant, water, and fertilize it for a whole year and nothing happens. The second year, you water and fertilize it, and nothing happens. The third year, you water and fertilize it, and nothing yet. The fourth year, you water and fertilize it, and still nothing. The fifth year, you continue to water and fertilize the seed. Sometime during the fifth year, the Chinese bamboo tree sprouts and grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. This power, based on your deep-rooted feeling about yourself, will harness your resolve and take you to insurmountable heights in your life and career. If you will trust it, it will take you from the impossible to amazing success. All things are possible to him that believes. Mark 9:23. If you have genuine faith, described as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, which embodies belief in yourself and in the process. You are like a bodybuilder developing a robust body. You are ripped. Now, let's get ready to step in to the next phase. It has become very apparent that we live in the microwave age.